Hello everyone, this is Mr. Lipchick, and what we have is a brief presentation on the Articles of Confederation, which would be the first governing constitution that would be used by the newly formed United States when we succeeded in our revolution. Okay, the Articles of Confederation was the first constitution of the United States. The national government it created was a loose confederation of 13 states. It was not the federal system that we all know today. The federal government had very little power. And each state sent one representative to a unicameral legislature. That is, it had one house of Congress. And by the way, each state had one vote, so they were equal in that respect, regardless of size. There were weaknesses, however, within the Articles of Confederation. It gave Congress the right to raise, while it gave Congress the right to raise an army and navy, it did not have the power to tax, which was needed to create them. So they could form an army, but they could not pay it. The federal government could not regulate trade, even with foreign governments. So you had individual states trading with foreign nations as they pleased. It did not give the federal government the power to enforce the Articles of Confederation. And Congress needed the approval of 9 of the 13 states in order to pass it. So each state interpreted it as it felt it should. And you needed 9 out of 13 states to pass a law, which is an overwhelming majority, and it's very difficult to get under any circumstances. Amending or changing the articles required the consent of all the states. Not 2/3 or 3/4, but every one of them. There was no executive branch of government. So you can imagine the degree of independence each state had. And this caused a lack of uniform policy, as congressional committees did most of the work. John Hanson, to the right, was the president of the Congress under the Articles of Confederation. So he was he was kind of the head honcho to some respect, but he was not an executive, and he was just the leader of Congress. So he had power, but not the type of power that a president would really have. And there was no national court system. And each state interpreted national laws for itself, making it difficult for Congress to settle disputes between them. There were some accomplishments under the Articles of Confederation, as disorganized as things were. The establishment of policies for the development and organization of new territories west of the Appalachian Mountains was one of them. The Northwest Ordinance was passed in 1787, which stated that territories were to be settled for statehood on an equal footing with existing states. And the peace treaty with Britain in 1783, in which Britain recognized American independence. And Congress set up departments such as Treasury and Foreign Affairs. It soon became apparent, though, that there was a need for a much stronger government. State governments quarreled over boundaries and imposed tariffs on one another. It's kind of hard to imagine Pennsylvania and Virginia, or Pennsylvania and New York putting up tariffs that would really impede national prosperity. The government was in debt, weakening the nation's defense. And probably the single most event that brought everything to a head was Shays' Rebellion. There was an economic depression, which caused banks to foreclose on farmers, who armed themselves and forced the courts to shut down. Back in those days, if you went bankrupt, you just didn't, go on with your daily life. They put you in jail, put you in debtor's prison. So farmers were losing their farms, and being put in jail in large numbers, and many of them felt that this was fundamentally unfair, which of course it was. And Shea was one of them. He was a Revolutionary War captain who was a farmer and a well-respected man in the community, and he organized this rebellion. The rebellion was repressed by the Massachusetts militia, but it caused fear of armed insurrection in the country. Basically, people started looking around and saying, well, you know what? These states are a little too independent. We need a little more law and order in the colonies. And that would create an impetus for a new constitution. That concludes our discussion of the Articles of Confederation. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great day.